Pivotal week, dude. What did we get from the Federal Reserve this week? We got a whole bunch of dovish language. We got the 25 basis points that we expected. And on Thursday, it sure seemed like the market was on a rocket ship to the moon because this U.S. dollar was tanking. After the Federal Reserve meeting, it just tanked, right? And I think right about here is when the bulls started to get euphoric. And what happens when the bulls get euphoric? They usually get punched in the face. So what did the dollar do? It bounced. And look how it closed that weekly candle. Like right at the buzzer, this thing just turns bullish suddenly. Most bullish weekly candle we've seen in the dollar since literally September. And you know what? That's right on schedule. That's perfectly aligned with our expectations because we should expect the U.S. dollar to not fall into oblivion in a straight line. So a bounce is welcomed. It's honestly exactly what I want to see because look at these markets. These markets are getting very frothy up here, very frothy. And I'm looking at the daily charts here. Look at this Friday candle. First signal of weakness. And honestly, like I said, that is what we want to see because when you're up here and you're frothy, you can't feel comfortable buying, and you also can't feel comfortable shorting because the market is just out of control up here, and euphoria can take over, and things can just get blown out of proportion. But now it looks like we're getting a nice, healthy pullback, and in the best possible scenario here, this right here, this big old move right here, this is a wave 3. Yes, the most bullish possible scenario. That's what I would suggest that it very well may be. Now, there's also the possibility that it's an ABC correction, right? So look at this. We'll look at the bear case and the bull case, but this is the bear case. If this is an ABC correction and we're entering the C heart wrencher, we should actually expect this move to go farther because C heart wrenchers are designed to wreck everyone. So the only way this move is going to wreck everyone is if it extends farther. So that's something you can't rule out. But you look at the dollar and you're like, is the move going to extend farther? No. The dollar is catching a bid right now. So no, that's going to put pressure on the market. That's going to give us that pullback that we're hoping to see. So in the bullish scenario, where we don't have the ABC correction and instead we're looking at a 5-wave impulse, what do we see right here? We had wave 1 complete in December. This is wave 3 right here. Wave 3. Yes, wave 3 is the big, powerful one where you make all the money. But if this is a wave 3, and honestly, that 3 is probably going to go a lot higher if, in fact, it is a wave 3, then right here, you've likely come into the end of wave 1 within wave 3. So that wave 1 should look something like this, right? There's your wave 1 coming into that pullback. Wave 2 showing up right on schedule, right when the dollar is bouncing, should come back to back test the almighty trend line. And then you become wave 3 of 3. And that's the big, powerful move. That should be a very powerful move. So I would expect that we're coming into a pullback this week. That would be a bullish situation. Now, we don't know if it's going to be a pullback, and I've talked a little bit about how I am positioned on both sides of the trade because I don't even rely on technical analysis to be right or wrong. I don't even try to be right or wrong. As you know, with crypto, I'm just a perma bull. I just buy all the way to zero. But how do I actually make money so that I can buy all the way to zero? I set myself up to succeed in every situation that the stock market could offer me. That means that I'm hedged. I'm always hedged. So I am holding positions long in the stock market here, even though I could see that they could fall right here. But I'm also long volatility in the stock market, aka the VIX. I'm long the VIX in the stock market. Look where the VIX is right here. This thing is free money right now in the event that the stock market is going to pull back. The VIX is honestly, it rarely gets this oversold. Like look at this. Look at this. I'm looking at the weekly chart on the RSI. The RSI rarely gets this low. Look at it. When was the last? It's like never been that low. Now, that could mean that the VIX is about to freaking collapse and the market is actually about to skyrocket. That's one conclusion you could draw from this. But I'm inclined to draw the conclusion that the VIX is actually very oversold and it's likely to come into a bounce. I don't know if that's going to be like a spike bounce like over here, like you saw in the March 2020 crash. That's not really what I'm talking about, but I am expecting the VIX to catch a bid up here, maybe come back to test some of these moving averages, and that would be an opportunity to make money on this thing on the long side, like literally buying calls on the VIX. The VIX calls become very valuable very, very quickly if you buy them when they're cheap, which they are right now, because not very many people are expecting this market to turn down. Obviously, if you look at the chart, you absolutely should be expecting it to turn down. But a lot of people aren't necessarily looking at the chart. They're just thinking that prices are going higher. I better buy, otherwise I'm going to miss out. And then the VIX is corroborating that because of the fact that if you look at the price of VIX calls right now, like on Friday, they were like free. They were so cheap that literally it just tells you that no one's even thinking that the VIX could spike right now. Most people are still in that euphoric state of mind and they're expecting this thing to go higher, even though it's almost clear as day that candle that you got on Friday right there, that was your major signal that the trend is probably about to take a rest. I'm saying it's a bullish rest. I think it's going to be a very big bullish pullback. And I did say last week that if this pullback turns out to be a back test of the trend line here, I'm telling you, that is going to be the best buying opportunity of 2023 because that's going to come right before you hit wave 3 of 3, and that's going to be massive. That could literally take the S&P to new all-time highs. Or close to it, something like that. Who knows? I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't need to answer that question yet. But let's see what crypto is telling us in terms of its bullishness or bearishness. Now, here's what I see with crypto, right? You got your first red candle finally, right? And that's coming up right shy of that 200-week moving average. So that makes sense. But then if we zoom in a little bit more, what do you see? You see volume divergence. You see the declining volume as the price goes higher. So yes, that is indicative of a pullback on the horizon. But ultimately, I think it's relatively safe to say that Bitcoin has entered an impulsive bullish move here. The moving averages are corroborating that. You're about to have the 50 cross the 200. Incredibly bullish. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a bull. Now, you do want a pullback. Like everybody wants a pullback right here because they want to buy Bitcoin. People are absolutely looking for a pullback, and that's maybe why you won't even get one, right? Maybe Bitcoin's just going to bust through this 200 and no one gets a chance to buy. That is totally possible. That's why you buy all the way to zero without hesitation, because this market will rip your face off. Crypto is not the type of market you trade. You just white knuckle it. That's what you do. That's why these videos are called the White Knuckle Report. But if I am going to zoom in a little bit and just look a little bit deeper into Bitcoin here, it's kind of showing you pretty strong weakness. Look at this. Lower highs, right? Lower highs, lower lows in the RSI as price pushes higher. And how many divergences? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 divergences. Quadruple bearish divergence on Bitcoin. Yeah, I think you should expect it to pull back. Now, I'm not saying that I feel comfortable going short on Bitcoin, but I am saying that the weakness is pretty obvious at this point. It's quite obvious. But I will say that it's expected weakness. It's weakness that would happen in an impulse exhaustion. And I believe that's what this is. I believe this whole move is very likely an impulse that's becoming exhausted. It needs to have a wave 2 pullback. And I think that's what's coming. And I think everything is sort of showing us that the fact that the DXY is in this bouncing phase, the markets are exhausted, they're going to pull back. That's going to be a beautiful, beautiful buying opportunity. If it's not the bullish scenario, then honestly, I would actually expect this market to get frothier. That's what I would expect. If we're not in a bullish scenario, I would expect the market to get frothier. So that will be interesting to follow up on this week. But when the VIX is as low as it is, and it's kind of showing a little bit of buying pressure here. That's not really reflected in the options market just yet, but on the weekly candle, yeah, it's trying to put in a bottom, I would say. I would say that you need to see some upward movement on the VIX. It's so overdue, right? I mean, back here, in November, it was kind of the same thing. It was overdue. It had like a technical 3-week bounce. That's kind of what I'm expecting here. I'm expecting a technical 3-week, 2 to 3 to 4 week bounce on the VIX that's going to provide you with that wave 2 pullback, back test the almighty trend line. That would just be the greatest scenario of all time. DXY maybe has another couple of bullish weeks up here. Maybe it gets up to the inverse 382. That would make a lot of sense, just like this line that I drew here. I just don't think it's going to drag out as long as this line sort of indicates. So I'm going to actually get rid of that, because now it sort of seems like this is just going to be a technical bounce. It's probably going to be a relatively fast move, something like that, before, right? Like, I don't think it's going to last very long. Like, by the end of this month, I bet you the strength in the dollar has come to an end. The markets have back tested the almighty trend line here, and that dip will honestly get bought up very quickly. And that has everything to do with the Federal Reserve and their dovish tone. Like, you got to remember that coming into the Federal Reserve meeting, you were on this candle, right? So this was Wednesday's candle, right? So leading into that meeting on Wednesday, this was the candle leading into the meeting. Very bullish. You had a huge uptrend, right? So I was kind of expecting the Fed to actually come out hawkish like they did over here. Because what was this? This was a very similar situation. This was the famous Jackson Hole market beatdown situation where Jerome Powell came out and he literally beat the market down is what he did. So the market was super frothy leading into it. And he came out being like, yo, we got to crush this thing because inflation is getting a hold. That's kind of what I thought might happen here, but it didn't. It was nothing like that. He was literally as dovish as possible. He might as well have just given the green light for the market to go to new all-time highs. That's kind of what it seemed like, because he's like, 25 basis points. As far as I'm concerned, inflation is decreasing the rate at which it's increasing, right? So that's, to him, that's like, oh, great, perfect. We're doing our job. We don't need to worry. Let's let the stock market run. And then you got to remember, these other Washington bureaucrats, right? They're long the stock market right now. How do I know that? Because they haven't banned themselves from owning stocks. Until Congress bans themselves from owning stocks, you basically need a bullish bias. You have to expect that this market is going to new all-time highs. Now, corroborate that with the simple fact that the United States is about to be like $33 trillion in debt in this currency. They don't want this currency to be pumping. They want this currency to be weak. The weaker this currency is, the easier it is for the Americans to service their debt. So that is a twofold bullish setup where it seems like everybody wants the dollar to collapse, and also Congress wants the stock market to rise because they're still in it. And you better believe they will ban themselves from owning stocks. I have no doubt about that. But do you think they're going to do it before the market is at all-time highs? That sounds insane. Of course they're not going to do that. Literally, can you imagine a world where they don't make as much money as they possibly can? No. Their whole purpose for living is making as much money as they possibly can. That's why they became politicians. So you better believe that they are bullish and they want the maximum value out of their position. So I definitely think that's a really solid reason to expect this market to rise to new all-time highs. I don't know if that's going to bring Bitcoin to new all-time highs, honestly. I think it could just set up the situation that we've been looking for literally 2 years, where you finally get the retracement for Bitcoin, and what happens? Altcoins outperform. That's what I think is the most likely scenario. And a major reason why I think that is because the Bitcoin halving does not happen till April 2024. Not all the way out to here. So I think Bitcoin is likely to be coming only into a retracement in which altcoins will outperform, but then it's going to probably be maybe somewhat bearish or just sort of waddle, I guess is the right word. It'll just sort of waddle until the next catalyst, which I believe is the Bitcoin halving. But once this thing starts getting steam and crypto starts getting steam, the Ethereum triple halving, that's going to kick in. Altcoins are definitely positioned to go ballistic, even in a simple retracement for Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is, stock market may go to new all-time highs and may only go to slight new all-time highs, but I don't think that's going to be a major Bitcoin bull run, I think it's most likely the scenario that we've been looking for, where altcoins outperform in a Bitcoin retracement. I think that's sort of what's emerging here. And I mean, look at this. I'm just looking at the chart. Look at this. This looks more like an inverse head and shoulders every day. And that's what I said about the Dow Jones in the first video I made of 2022. The first video I made of 2023. That's exactly what I said about the Dow Jones. I said this looks like a historic inverse head and shoulders. It still looks like that. And now the other indices look like that. And I literally think that's all sort of becoming confirmed at this point. And even if the Dow Jones pulls back tests a trend line, maybe just back tests the moving averages, that's all bullish. That is all good news. And look at this. Look on the Dow Jones here. You literally see the 100 now above the 200. It's all good. It's all good right now. I mean, it's bullish. But that pullback, I think it's coming. Bulls are getting a little too excited. I think the pullback's coming. If that pullback comes, holy crap. That will be the ultimate buying opportunity of this year, kid.